Hi, and welcome to episode 10 of the Super Game Bros podcast. This is Star Value. I'm your host, Ricky McMillan, and this week I'm joined, as usual, by Will Hamilton, David Morris, Danny Black, and Andrew Driscoll. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening. All
Now,
right.
firstly, I'd just like to say a great big thank you to all our listeners, as we've had a massive upsurge in our listening rate and download rate. So thank you very much to you, the old and even the new listeners. Now, on this week's show, we're going to be discussing, are EA the right company to have the Star Wars franchise? And more besides. And join us back in part one when we discuss that very question. Hi, and welcome to part one of the Super Game Bros podcast. I'm your host, Ricky McMillan, and in this part, we're going to be discussing whether or not the Star Wars franchise should actually be held by EA, or whether or not there are other companies out there who would do the job much better. Now, guys, I know that that's kind of a very strange question to be asking people. However, I'm asking that based on the very fact that last week most of us participated in the Star Wars Battlefront beta, and since then we have came across or we've heard more information regarding Battlefront. Namely, the season pass was announced at $49.99. And we're going to be talking later on the show about season passes and DLC, so I don't want to touch on the season pass just yet. But more to the point, if you look at the old Battlefront 2, for instance, that had 54 planets on it. Now, this current Battlefield, as we found out last night, thanks to a Reddit user who data mined the PC version of the Battlefront beta, there's not much of value for money in Battlefront. Now, do you think, in my opinion anyway, there's not a lot of value for money. Do you think that Battlefront is going to be, worth it, short or long term? Anyone? David, what about yourself?
Yeah. So I think I said last week that I found the kind of whole thing of playing Star Wars. You kind of get giddy at that initial piece where you're playing the game and it's got the right sounds and everything looks great and it kind of feels it's got the right sort of level of immersion. And then you get into the gameplay, and on what we saw in the beta, it looked pretty repetitive. Now, what we have to understand is it going to be further variations of that, or can we expect something much more? Now, any beta is going to be limited by definition. I understand that, but even within one map, there seemed to be very little variation in terms of what you could and couldn't do. And I think for me, there was a sense of, after a few rounds, is this all there is? And then hearing that the game has no campaign, there's no campaign to play.
No, it's just a very loose mission-based type thing.
Yeah, and it probably then is reminiscent of Titanfall. And as much as I love Titanfall as a game, it doesn't have a campaign. It has missions that you play through in a sequence that vaguely match a story. So I suppose my overwhelming sense is that I'm quite disappointed. And I think in terms of the content that you get for paying your 50 quid, doesn't feel like it's particularly good value for money. And without kind of diving into the DLC season pass thing, to be told you've got to spend another £50 or $50, and it'll be £40, I guess, in this country, on a season pass. I mean, 90 quid for a game that has no campaign. I mean, what is that in terms of value? It feels really, really poor. And to be honest, it feels like EA are just trying to gouge as much money out of this as they possibly can.
Yeah,
Based on initial impressions, and that's kind of how it feels to me. And I can't help but think that they've paid a fortune in license to Disney to be allowed to make the game, and then have to sell either enormous numbers of units. And I've seen some stuff that the No have done in terms of volumes. And Battlefront 4, which is kind of, I suppose, the analogous game that EA did, it's definitely on a declining slope in terms of that volumes. So Star Wars doesn't sell like 10 million units or 12 million units or something like that. Do they make money? And so that's why I'm wondering how much genuine effort has gone into the development, how much is new, and much is it just how quickly and inexpensively can we put out a Star Wars game and just fleece people silly for the pleasure and privilege of doing that.
Well, a lot of people would actually probably say that that is, that's EA in a nutshell. I mean, they've been voted the worst place to work in America 3 years running, or the worst company to work for in America 3 years running, that sort of thing. So I don't know if they're even looking at it like that. I read the other day that the way EA are viewing the Star Wars franchise and the license that they have for it is that what they're intending to do is they're intending to, give people the specific fantasies, as it were, that you come across in the Star Wars world. You want to be Luke Skywalker, you want to be Darth Vader, you want to fly through the legs of an AT-AT Walker, that sort of thing. Now, Andrew, when I mentioned this the other day in the site's chat at Ramble Media, one of the things that you mentioned is that it was going to be a cash cow, and David mentioned, quite a lot there, the money that's going to be generated. Do you think that's the real way the EA see the Star Wars franchise for them, as just a big giant pot of cash? Or do you think that they have a long-term strategy involving Star Wars?
No, I can't see any other thing than they've got a Star Wars franchise and they think the pure volume of fans that Star Wars has, they'll buy this game. We will make lots of money now. We can support it like crap for the next 2 or 3 years, then put out another one. Or even make it an annual thing, Call of Duty it up. But I can't see them thinking this as oh yes, we need to look after this franchise, we need to look after the Star Wars fans that will give us money anyway. It's like FIFA fans, which, funnily enough, are EA.
Yes.
We'll buy the game every year.
That's what I was going to say there as well. Obviously, David mentioned the fact that Titanfall had a similar idea when it came to story. It reeks of EA's current plan to, we'll get this game and we'll fire it out and it'll just be multiplayer, because most people would rather play multiplayer. But at the same time, it's going to be the situation that EA likes to get as much money as possible from everybody. But I mean, when you consider the amount of people who played, it was something like 9 million people played the beta. They already have an indication of at least half of how many people are going to buy the game full. So they've probably thrown a whole lot of money at Disney to get the Star Wars license so that they can make this game. They've reskinned Battlefield 4, or Broken Field 4 we're calling it, and they're not even bothering with any kind of campaign mode, because that would add to their development costs. It's going to be multiplayer, it's going to be as easy as possible for them to make, and then the sheer amount of money that they're charging for a season pass, which probably will only add stuff that they could have added to the game for free anyway.
Yeah, well, go on, David.
Yeah, I think though what we have is an interesting, if you like, yardstick for us to look at here. And I'm going to bring Halo. And anyone who has read the article I wrote last week about Halo 5 and looking at what content you're getting for your 50 quid for buying Halo 5, you get the campaign, which is 8 to 12 hours, they reckon, on normal difficulty. But not just as a solo player, you can play it with up to 4 players cooperative play at the same time. There are 21 maps being released at launch and a further 18 to follow. There's 12v12 Warzone, 4v4 competitive arena mode. There's the new Forge mode, which is going to follow, I think, in December. New maps to support big team battle, which a lot of people were really quite upset about. And do you know what the season pass is going to cost you for Halo? There isn't one. It's all coming for your 50 quid with Halo 5. And it looks absolutely stonking value. And you compare that to Battlefront, which is 50 quid for some stuff and another 40 quid for something else, and you still don't have the content that you're getting relative to Halo. Now, if only every game was going to give us what Halo does, and you can't necessarily expect that. But I do think it looks paltry by comparison, and it feels very much like just how much can we get out of this franchise.
Yeah, definitely feels like a rip-off for the amount of money that they're asking for.
Yeah, it's EA. What do you expect?
Well, aye, well,
We
yeah,
pretty much do expect that from EA. That's a problem.
yeah.
It's
Now,
the kind of situation that you shouldn't have to expect that from a company.
that's
You
true.
shouldn't
Now,
be
It's EA.
surprised when a company decides to do something like this.
one of the things I'd like to bring up is, well, you didn't actually play the beta.
I didn't know.
But you and I, we've had discussions before about 1313,
Mhm.
right? Now, do you think that this much vaunted RPG that EA announced at E3 and didn't show us anything of, I know they showed a mobile game for Star Wars, but they didn't show this much vaunted RPG. Do you think that EA, you know, with the regular subsidiary companies like BioWare with the Mass Effect series and Visceral Software with their Deep Space, do you think that, you know, maybe the RPG game is possibly, that's going to be the epitome of the Star Wars universe as far as EA are concerned? Or do you think that, you know, they've just threw Battlefield out and went, oops, we better make this a Star Wars game?
Honestly, I honestly do just think that they've reskinned Battlefield 4 just so that they could get it up and out the door. I mean, I don't know if it's because they have another Star Wars game planned that they need more time for or possibly more money for, but
Well, to the best of my understanding, their deal is 5 games.
yeah, but that's 5 games regardless of platform. I mean, they already have the Old Republic, which is now a free-to-play game. They've got Galaxy of Heroes, and they've also got Battlefront. So I mean, that's 3 they've already got that they can turn around and say, right, we've made these ones. So I mean, like, I don't want to say that they are messing about and
Yeah. Can I just say that whenever I heard that DICE were doing it, I was like, yes, DICE will have faith in DICE. But since playing the beta, I've just lost my hope for the game. I definitely think it's gonna be a cash cow,
Well,
especially with that season pass.
Well, the thing about it for me, the whole thing about it for me is that I'm a big fan of Star Wars, right? I'm sure we all are. So I would like to see the Star Wars franchise, maybe not in the hands of one company, but split over a number of companies. For instance, BioWare, because of how good they are at doing the sci-fi RPGs like Mass Effect, and I know that,
they've already had a hand at Star Wars games in the past as well with Knights.
they also did the Old Republic, and it doesn't. I don't like thinking like this, but would it not be easier for them just to port the Old Republic over to the consoles?
It's
You
possible,
know,
but at the same time, it's one of those things. As the Old Republic, I mean, the Old Republic, as far as I remember, was a pay-to-play game originally, and then they dropped it to free-to-play. Was it
Yes,
not?
that's correct. Yes, that's
So,
correct.
I mean, when you think of that, EA, they know their money. So if they aren't making enough money from the Old Republic as a paid game, then they obviously dropped it to free-to-play so that people would continue using it. So moving it to consoles, they would have to have it as a free-to-play game with microtransactions just to keep the servers running.
Well, I mean, the Old Republic at the moment is like microtransaction central.
Mhm.
There was a point where you literally couldn't do, you know, you couldn't walk into a new building without an advert appearing. That sort of thing. But that's, to me, that's beside the point. For instance, Danny, you mentioned DICE and how good they are at shooters with the Battlefield franchise. But
Yeah, I'm a massive
I think
Battlefield fan.
I think the last 3 Battlefield games have proven that maybe DICE need to take a wee break for the Battlefield games.
DICE seems to be getting pushed to to compete with Call of Duty these days.
Yeah.
It's getting closer and closer. I mean, the last Hardline was as close to Call of Duty as you're going to get for a Battlefield game. It literally just became cops and robbers.
Hardline wasn't actually developed by DICE.
Wasn't that DICE game, was it? No.
No, that was
Right,
Visceral.
it wasn't.
It was Visceral.
That's right.
But
The-
Visceral used DICE's engine and
Yeah.
assets and things like that. So
It might as well have been, to be fair.
yeah, I mean, it was basically the Visceral programmers drag and dropped, but
Yeah.
Hardline together.
They
using-
need to go back to Bad Company, I think. I've been playing Bad Company 2 there over the week, and that was my first ever PlayStation 3 game, and I absolutely love that game. It's definitely not like what it used to be. Like Frostbite, I even think has gone down the drain as well. Their engine.
Well,
I don't like it so
Frostbite's
much.
a decent engine. It just
Yeah.
it relies heavily on the people that are using it, though.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as I know, the new Mirror's Edge game's going to be done in Frostbite, and the videos that we've seen of that are amazing.
oh, it looks amazing, but as far as like destruction and that, it's become less.
I don't think Frostbite's get much in the way of decent destruction mechanics.
Yeah, destruction. DICE, the engine Frostbite 1.5 on Bad Company 2, the destruction was just unreal. One of the main reasons I loved that game.
I think that was one of the reasons everybody played the multiplayer, was the ability
Yeah,
to drive a tank through a building.
It was quite literally the first Battlefield I played as well, was Bad Company 2. I love that
Yeah.
game. I still have it because of
Everybody still got it.
that. We all recently got it in
Now,
Steam.
now, David, I believe you were going to say something about the RPG aspect. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I mean, I think what I think we're all really alluding to here is, if you just want a shooter, how is a Star Wars shooter any different from Call of Duty? Because let's face it, Call of Duty just needs to move another couple of decades forward, and it's going to be lightsabers and you know, and
Honestly, I'm surprised they don't
You know,
have it already.
you know, it's not that far off it. So part of me kind of sits there and goes, you know, I think they need to take it in a different direction. And what I am thinking is that if you want a decent RPG and kind of, you know, obviously Ubisoft gets, BioWare gets a very strong mention because of what they've done with Mass Effect, and that's completely understandable. But whether they would want to be getting involved in doing something just now when they're so heavily prepared and trying to make Mass Effect Andromeda happen, I don't know. But I think you need to look at who the developers who are going to give you a really good story. And something that just springs to mind based on what I'm playing just now is Telltale. Now, if you look at Telltale are behind The Walking Dead, which is one of this month's games with gold on Xbox, and it's an amazing game. It's a completely amazing game, and you're invested in the characters and the interactions and so on. And they're very clearly about how to take you through a story and how changes in your decisions affect the story. The kind of thing that I think, you know, is what endears a lot of people to the Mass Effect series. So is it that we're saying, do you know what, Star Wars shooter's fine, but it's good for a couple of hours, and then we're really going to start to lose interest? And what we really want is a big story, which you can then bolt on some sort of shooter multiplayer to afterwards. And
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
kind of just want to throw that out and see what the guys think.
yeah. Can I just add, DICE do multiplayer really, really well, and their story not so much. I think that's why they haven't added a story in, is because they want to concentrate on the multiplayer. And in my
But
opinion, they haven't
whole
even
Star
done that
Wars-
right.
The whole Star Wars thing is based on the story.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
when-
exactly.
When you look at the initial release of Episode 4, you have, you know, it's a fairy tale. You've got your Black Knight and Darth Vader. You've got your princess, who's your damsel in distress. You've got the rogue who falls in love with the princess, but you don't see that in the first movie.
Yeah.
And you've got the young, shall we say, the young squire learning his job, learning the trade, and then the guy who's teaching him the trade dies. It's got all the elements for the perfect fairy tale. All they've got to do is open up Aesop's Fables. You know,
Yeah.
and there's a story. Just put it in the
Yeah.
Star Wars
You're
universe.
kind of looking for Excalibur almost at some point in this, do you know? Take
Yeah.
take the lightsaber out of the stone, Luke.
Aye, yeah, basically. I mean, that's basically it. Now, Andrew, do you think, you know? I mean, I know you're a big fan of the Kinect. He says tongue purely in cheek. So, I was one of those people who, sadly, yes, I will put my hands up. I sadly bought Kinect Star Wars, and
Yeah, so did I.
I do have to admit, my daughter, she's 15 now, and she wouldn't be seen dead even looking at anything with Star Wars written on it. But at the time, it had this wee dance mode in it, and she was absolutely brilliant with it. She genuinely was. But it had the pod racing. Now, I've been thinking, you could make a whole game from pod racing.
There was a game on the
Yeah,
PS2
N64.
and the
I
PS2.
think Ricky's getting it Kinect. Pod racing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because that's what Kinect Star Wars did. It was, you know, pod
You're-
racing using the
Basically,
Kinect.
you're basically sat there like that.
Yes,
And you
right.
Like that,
And
and
it
you
was,
like that.
and
And that's basically all the controls you need.
or if
So-
you give you a jump, you went like that. Right. The problem is the original Kinect and even the PlayStation Eye camera were never good enough to pick up, you know, the physical movements and that sort of thing. I mean, that's why it didn't even come out on PlayStation 3. It was, you know, the PlayStation Eye camera was useless. But with the advancements they've made in the cameras, do you think now it's possible we might actually get a halfway decent Star Wars racing game?
I don't see it. To be fair, I mean, the pod racing games are a throwback to a trilogy that a lot of Star Wars fans don't want to actually accept that it exists as part of their story. I mean,
The problem there is
yeah,
Disney have already
it's-
said
it's-
it's canon.
Aye, but I know they've said it's canon, but I mean, canon's what the fans make it. No, what Disney has decided.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to use this, and we're going to use that, because there are tons of books and there are tons of comics and tons of a whole lot of other stuff. I mean, even fan fiction that most people would consider canon because it works with the rest of the universe. But for for the sake of the new movies, they decided that this is what we're going to use and nothing else. But pod racing is unfortunately part of the episode 1 or episode 4, depending on what way you want to look at it. But I don't see a lot of people enjoying that game.
See, I think if you're rooting around for old Star Wars games that are worthy of a refresh and a polish and being brought up to the current generation, I'm going to point you at X-Wing and the associated TIE Fighter. X-Wing was a completely amazing PC game. It must be, what, 20 years old, Will?
X-Wing, yeah.
At least.
Aye. And it was an amazing game because it got the game mechanics right and it got you completely bought into it. I mean, you had, well, at least I did at the time, before I even had a proper sound card for my PC, it was literally the speaker going beep, 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 and it was brilliant. It was completely brilliant and thoroughly enjoyed it. So that, for me, I think proves that if you have the right game setting and the right mechanics, people will enjoy it. And you know, if we're looking for ideas to throw around on games or game modes or different things to do, then I would absolutely throw the X-Wing hat in the ring for that, because that was a game that I think you could really enjoy, and it has the benefit of giving you space combat and
I was
space combat.
literally about to say that.
Yeah,
One thing
and
one
it gives
thing
you
it
space
has that
combat.
Battlefront
'Cause listen,
does,
You know,
like,
and the original game, I think, had everything up to and including the trench on the Death Star.
yeah, the trench
Yeah.
run.
Which is
That's-
like the
that's
trench on this.
Honestly,
That's what you want.
I honestly hope that that's what the season pass is going to get you. If you pay for that, you're going to get space battles. You're going to get the trench run. You're going to get the Millennium Falcon flying about at the same time as you're flying an A-wing and stuff like that. The battles that made Star Wars the reason so many people love it.
Well, that was my next point. The fact that EA have already said, you know, they want to give everybody the whole Star Wars, the Star Wars fantasies that people have, right? You know, the problem I've got with that is they already announced last year there is absolutely going to be no space battles. So if there's no space battles, how am I getting that fantasy where I'm the guy that blows up the Death Star and it's no Luke Skywalker?
And that's kind of where it all falls down.
Where's that?
And I think that what if I was being cynical, and heaven forbid that I be cynical, what I would be saying
never at
is,
all. We'd never
what is the cheapest, most simple, well-trodden pathway that we can build a game around about Star Wars that people will get excited about, will go out and buy in their droves, and we don't have to put any real effort into developing.
We'll take
that's a really
cynical from
point.
a shooter. We'll wrap it around some Star Wars lore, and that's it. That's
You know
essentially all they needed to do.
You know, it's like, let's spend a couple hours sampling the movie so that we can get the sounds right for the blasters and stuff like that.
It's more likely because they've got the license from Disney. Disney just sent them the sound files, the originals.
Yeah. Well, it probably is, but I mean, you know, literally that to me feels like you copy and paste in the relative things. You skin somebody up, and there you go. You're a stormtrooper. Fantastic. Although, you know, a lot of folk don't like when to play as a stormtrooper. But you know, one of the things about the beta was the complete lack of personalization. And I think if you don't have personalization, you're not invested in the character that you're playing, even in a multiplayer. And I think you kind of need that. Now, whether that comes with the main game and to what degree, I don't know. But I think, you know, if we're talking about things that are missing from what's being discussed here, I'm very unexcited for Battlefront. Very unexcited for it. And whereas when I saw it announced, and that would have been, what, E3 2014?
Yep.
Yeah, and you look at that and you're going, fantastic, this looks amazing. The problem is, everything we saw at E3 in 2014, that's kind of all we're getting. And that for me is like, that's a massive letdown. Massive letdown.
Yeah. Now, Andrew, do you think that if we finish off this section with our conclusion for everyone, do you think EA and their subsidiary companies are the right people to be going ahead with the Star Wars franchise?
That all depends what the Star Wars franchise wants. If the Star Wars wants to ship
subsidiary as well, I suppose.
Yeah, if they want to ship loads of copies with a generic game, make money off it, people will buy the DLC. They'll patch on a space DLC as soon as the season passes up, probably. Yeah, then EA's the perfect company to do that. If they want something more, I could have seen it done in like a BioShock kind of way. That would have been nice. But it depends what Disney want out of it. If Disney want money, EA's their company. If they want more, they need to look elsewhere, really.
And you, Danny, what do you think?
No, definitely not EA. Maybe if DICE were a company on their own, not owned by EA. Before EA bought them, and possibly but not at the moment, no.
And you, David, do you think EA are the right company going forward to have?
On what we've seen so far, I'd really have to say no, Ricky. But you know, unless they've got something really substantive in the wings, then it feels like we're going to be getting rehashes and copies of this until such times as they no longer have the license. I mean, Disney doesn't exactly have a great track record in games and gaming in general. Disney Infinity aside, you know, that they haven't really been able to do gaming, I think, particularly effectively. So
yeah, they all platform.
It means I think they don't really properly understand it. And in essence, what they're saying is, well, hang on, Electronic Arts, you're a big gaming company, you know about this, you go and do this. And it's fine to a point, but what I think it does is it leaves us with a company who has a relatively narrow and unimaginative vision as to what Star Wars could be, and it's pretty disappointing for me. I would much rather see somebody with a bit of a track record in doing good story-led games involved, or something. You know, if you want to get completely left field, why not get Turn 10 in to do pod racing? Guys who make Forza, who do the most amazing simulations to do pod racing.
Well, yeah, I mean, EA have their own gaming or own racer stables as well. I mean, they do have Criterion who do good racing games. They could easily do something like that.
Yeah.
But like I've been saying, it's
what good racing games like Need for Speed Burnout?
Need for Speed Burnout. That's too different. But aye, I honestly don't think it's not a bad thing that EA have got it. It just they've gave it to the wrong team. They've got this license and they've said to DICE, right, quickly get us a game out. And DICE have said, the only thing we can do is wrap the skins around Battlefield multiplayer and leave it at that. The reason I think that they haven't done space battles is because Battlefield didn't have space battles. That would mean having to completely make a new area. I mean, even the flight parts of the Battlefield game, or the beta was all in air. So I mean, it's literally all they've done is reskin the jets.
Yeah, can I just add as well? I even noticed some parts in the snow maps in Battlefront were exactly the same as some of the maps in Battlefield, only just reskinned.
Yeah. So it could easily just be reusing the same assets as well.
It definitely was, yeah.
That's why they've managed to get out the door so quickly.
They were using the same assets, I can guarantee it.
Well, there you go. I mean, in my opinion, if they gave it to a BioWare, then they could have made a decent game. If they had got DICE and BioWare to work together to make a decent game, that might have worked as well.
It's the same way.
DICE on its own, DICE are they're literally only known for 2 games, and none of them are going to be effective as a decent Star Wars game.
It's the same way that Arkham Origins was using the same assets from Arkham City. You know, same buildings, everything.
Aye.
Well, in conclusion, do you think EA are the right company to be going forward?
No.
Well, I happen to agree with you there. And unless EA and Disney are prepared to pay Sony a shed load of cash for the Star Wars Galaxies engine, I don't think we're actually going to see a halfway decent Star Wars RPG either, unless they dust off 1313. But that's just my thing. And with the addition of the DLC that EA do for practically every game they bring out, I can't see how any of that is going to be beneficial for gamers. Now, in part 2 of the show, we're going to be discussing DLC and season passes and that sort of thing, and we're not just going to be completely ridiculing EA or Broken Field 4.
Am we? Oh, that's why I said that.
Or should I say, not just you know. So join us again in part 2, and we'll be right back with you. Hi, and welcome back to part 2 of the Super Game Bros podcast. I'm your host, Ricky McMillan, and as usual, myself and the panel, we're discussing the things that mean something to everyone in the gaming industry. I'd like to thank you, our listeners, for joining us, whether you're new or old listeners. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions regarding the Super Game Bros podcast, then be sure to fire an email to sgb@ramblemedia.co. Now, in this, the second part, we're going to be discussing, the value in gaming today. Now, as we all know, games are quite expensive to buy, £60 in some places. But on top of that, you then end up having to buy, or maybe having to buy DLC or the season pass. Now, going back to our earlier discussion, Battlefront, it was announced this week, is going to have a season pass that's going to be valued in America at $60. Over here in the UK, I think that's like £44. With what we know that's planned, we've got 4 planned DLC. Each DLC is going to have 2 new planets. So that's going to give us 8 planets plus the 11 that come with the game. So that gives us a total of 19 planets spread over 11 game modes. And that's just Battlefront. And that's going to cost all sorts of money. All in the game plus the season pass. It's close to £100. I think you worked it out earlier, David, to be about £90.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with season passes and DLC is then you look at a company like Rockstar. Now, admittedly, Rockstar, they did have the most successful video game in history in Grand Theft Auto 5. But every single piece of DLC, regardless of how successful the initial launch of the game was going to be, every DLC was planned to be completely free. And it is. The only thing that isn't is if you want to buy loads and loads of in-game cash. And that's fair enough. If you want to take shortcuts like that, be my guest. Right? Who am I to complain? But my point is, a company like Rockstar, who admittedly aren't as big as, say, EA, they may have a bigger game, but they themselves as a company aren't as big and as widespread. is EA and other companies. For instance, Square Enix are another company who have recently introduced, I think they introduced a season pass into one of the recent remakes of one of the Final Fantasy games. Because they've got DLC planned for it. I think it's either that or they've announced the Final Fantasy 13 remake, and if you buy the season pass, you'll get the 13.2 and 13.3, or whatever all the games associated with Final Fantasy 13. You'll get all of them for the price of the season pass. To me, that's good value. That's like 2 or 3 games for the price of one game. So fair enough, but that's long term. Other people have mentioned The Witcher 3. Now, Andrew, do you think that there's any middle ground between, the consumer and the companies? I mean, we all understand that the companies are there to make money, but do you think they're hedging their bets a wee bit by saying, right, well, if we're not going to make money off the game, see the people who buy the game, we're going to make money off them long term with the DLC or with a season pass? What's your take on that?
I've never been a fan of anything like a season pass, so purely because it does feel like they're promising you're going to get more content, and generally speaking, it's £30-40, but you have no idea what this content's ever going to be. You could be paying £40 for half a dozen maps and a character skin. There's never any guarantees, and you can't really guarantee what the company's going to put out in the future. The season passes have always been massively loaded in the favour of the company, and I don't think that's ever going to change. I've always made 2 rules when buying games. No pre-orders, in case it's broke, I can pick it up on day one quite easily, and no season passes, because I don't know what I'm buying. Some of them have been alright. I remember Fallout 3 having a season pass, and the extra content for Fallout 3 was massive. It was well worth the money.
There were like 2 discs extra content.
Excuse me, though.
But
yeah,
for the most part, I don't see the value in it. I think it's loaded in favour of the company, and I think that's only going to get worse.
And what about yourself, Will? What's your take on the, not so much are they worth it, but do you think that there are certain companies out there who are, even though they sell shed loads of games, they're still in it for even more money, and they don't care about us, the consumer, us, the gamers? Do you think that's fair?
There definitely are companies out there who they really only charge for the stuff that they've got to get more money. I mean, no point in any elbows, but EA do it constantly. Let's be fair, microtransactions are rife through each and every one of their games over the past few years. But
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I'm pretty much with Andrew when it comes to DLC and season passes and stuff. I mean, if I'm already paying £50 for a game, why should I have to pay another £50 for the second half of that game?
Yeah.
So there's always some value to some of the DLC, but you can never get. I mean, like Fallout 3. Like Andrew said, that had some great DLC in it, but there are very little games that come out where each and every part of the DLC that's included in a season pass is worth it. It's just not. I do have the same rule. I mean, I do pre-order every once in a while. It really depends on the game and whether or not I've got the cash on the run up to the game's release. But most of the time, if I'm pre-ordering a game, it's because I've been looking forward to it for a long while. But I will not buy DLC. I won't buy season passes. If I want the DLC, then I'll get that DLC. But I won't get a season pass to get all of it.
Right. Okay. Well, David, let me ask you this is a kind of a strange question. Have you ever bought a bit of DLC and you've thought after playing it or completing it or whatever, that was worth it?
It's a good question. There were a couple of pieces of DLC that accompanied Mass Effect 3 that you had to purchase that I actually thought enhanced the story. And they were kind of fairly substantial in terms of additional story for the game. A game like Mass Effect is different because it's not aimed at the multiplayer, so it's not maps, it's not things like that. So I think there have been occasions when I've purchased DLC and I thought that's good. I think where it enhances your experience or your enjoyment of the game, then it's valid. However, I think there are times when it just feels like, do you know what, we could have done this for the game and we haven't included it so as we can sell it on later. And I think that's just trying to gouge cash out of the gamers out there because it's become acceptable. And in a sense, you would say that Call of Duty is one of the worst offenders. Call of Duty becomes one of the worst offenders there because you buy it and you get all that you get with it, but you know up front before anything's announced that there will be a season pass, there will be additional maps, and you get some bits and pieces with that. But I know very few people who think that represents excellent value. It kind of almost becomes the price of continuing to play the game on the same maps as everybody else is playing. So there's an element of coercion that goes with that, which I don't particularly like. But I think you can make a justification for selling DLC, but then you need to look at the companies who provide free DLC. And you look at a lot of the content that's been provided out on GTA, which you haven't had to pay anything extra for. And I think when you start to look at things like that, there are other models that work really, really well. You don't have to be the biggest selling game in the world to do that. It helps, I suppose. But the sense that I'm only going to give you part of the game because I know I can compel you to go out and buy the rest of the game because that's what you need to do to carry on playing it with everybody else that's playing the game, I think that's incredibly cynical.
I can understand that. I happen to agree with what you're saying there. I think a lot of companies, their business model is, when it comes to DLC and season passes, is very cynical. Now, Danny asked David if he'd had any, if he'd bought any DLC that he thought was worth it. What about yourself? Is there any DLC that you've bought that you've thought, I've been ripped off?
Not necessarily. More just like, oh, I thought it would be more. Arkham Knight would be, in my opinion, would maybe fall into that category. The content that's come out so far, the DLC, the season pass is only 6 months, and it's not been very long. Each DLC, and it's been mostly skins as well. I felt a bit aggrieved, even though I'm a massive Batman fan.
That's a strange one because a lot of people were, that I've spoke to about the Arkham games, especially Arkham Knight. Some of them are actually really happy with the DLC.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm really happy with the game. It's just for the price of I thought we would get more.
Does anybody remember Horse Armor DLC?
What?
The Horse Armor DLC for Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
Yes.
It was a DLC pack that it was useless. I mean, it was essentially you paid £2.50 on Xbox for this horse armor that put on your horse, and
it made it look pretty.
It made it look pretty, but the horse with armor was still getting killed exactly the same way as
I believe that DLC is actually coming up to Metal Gear Solid 5, practically identically.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, it has. That's
probably the worst DLC I've ever seen. It's just the fact that you paid all this money. Let's be honest, it wasn't a lot of money. £2.50. It was like 500 points or something.
Yeah.
But, you get a Guitar Hero song for that.
At the same time, it was completely useless, other than the fact that it made your horse look armored.
You might as well have a guy with a bucket DLC. Or Metal Gear Solid for somebody to go around for every time the horse poops.
Yeah, well that's
and with buckets.
What made it worse is you'd already paid this money for the horse armor DLC, so it installed on your hard drive and the game recognised it. But it didn't just add it to your horse. You then had to go and visit a non-playable character, one of the orcs, and then pay 500 gold for him to put it on the horse.
No
so
way.
even paying money, You had to pay money to get the horse armor, and then you had to pay in-game money to get it put on your horse as well. So,
Can I just say, the likes of Witcher 3 and Walking Dead and GTA is exactly how DLC should be made.
Well, I don't agree with that about The Walking Dead, and I will explain why.
Okay.
Well, you see, I don't think of episodic content as DLC.
Neither do I.
And I will throw in a game which I think has been kind of under the radar for a lot of people, but I think is one of the contenders for Game of the Year, and that's Life is Strange.
Yes, I have to agree that is an exceptional game.
Yeah.
So Life is Strange is absolutely designed on episodic content. Each game gives you, 2.5, maybe 3 hours worth of gameplay. But it's incredibly immersive. And yes, I bought the season pass to allow me. I bought the first. What I liked about Life is Strange was I bought the game for about £6 or something like that for the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then the season pass was, I don't know, maybe another tenner on top of that. Not like radically expensive stuff. But what it did do was, I'll go in here, I'll try this first episode, and boom, there you go. I really like this, I'll get the season pass. That, to me, is a really good way for companies to kind of tease people in. Now, Life is Strange, I think, has been a really big success story, and a lot of people really, really like the game, and I think it's sold well, and it's up for 7 or 8 categories in the Golden Joysticks Awards this year. One of my absolute favourites. And that's how I think you do DLC as episodic content, but only compelling you to buy perhaps the early episode. And I think that's a useful model to say, do you know what, we're going to sell you the story, you buy the first 1 or 2 episodes up front, and then if you like it, here's what the rest of it is. For me, that's a model that you can support and say, well, actually, I think that makes sense.
Okay,
I agree with that. Entirely.
I agree with that, but only to the extent that as long as they don't then bring the whole bloody lot out on a disc a year later for about a tenner.
Call it the Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, because you see that a lot. A friend of mine, and I say young because he's like a good 10 years younger than myself, but he plays a lot of video games, and he bought Oblivion. Using your example, Will, he bought Oblivion, bought all the DLC, and then went and, for whatever reason, his Oblivion stopped working. So he bought the Game of the Year edition, not brand new. He bought the Game of the Year edition second hand, and realised his mistake. See, since that day, he has never bought a game in its first year of release. He has always waited until the Game of the Year edition comes out. Shadow of Mordor, I bought it. Could have bought the season pass, and I went no, because that's not worth it. Because it's only one piece of story, 2 pieces of story DLC, and one of them you get for nothing.
Right, for anybody who hasn't bought Shadow of Mordor yet, Asda, if you can find one still in there, are selling it for £10. If your local Asda's got any copies, then it should be £10.
Which console? Is it for all consoles?
Yep.
Yes. It's well worth
Not with much more.
it.
That's a lot cheaper than what Ricky bought it for.
No, it's not.
Speaking of DLC and Game of the Year editions, then, what's everybody's thoughts on Destiny: The Taken King Legendary Edition?
Well,
Yes.
that's a giant joke in itself.
Well, I
Yeah.
was coming to that because I was one of those smart people who didn't get Destiny because I knew immediately that everyone's going to get robbed. See when a company turns around and says, yes, and we've got DLC planned for 10 years, but you're going to pay £60 for a game, and then over the course of 10 years you're going to pay out, say, a further £200 to have the complete game.
Destiny in itself is a good game.
Far more than £200.
Oh, Destiny's a really good
When you
game.
consider you've paid £40 to £50 for the original game, then there was two DLCs before Taken King came out, which was probably about £20 each. Then you
Yeah,
had another
I believe there was a
£40
season pass for them.
Well, to be fair, I mean the season pass would probably it would probably be far more worth the money than any other game that I've ever seen. If that's, I mean, I don't think so. But was Taken King part of the DLC, or was that brand new because it
No.
was year two?
No, brand
Brand
new.
new.
That was brand new. You had to pay another
almost like
£40
buying
for
another
that.
game, except it won't work unless you've got the original Destiny. In
Yes.
which case you then buy the Super Deluxe Go Faster with GTI edition, which has the original Destiny and the Taken King and all the DLC.
That was the thing about the Taken King as well. It was the original Destiny that was on the disc, and then the DLC, which downloaded, was bigger than the original game that was on the disc because of the Nolan North updates. So you were essentially paying for a disc that you genuinely didn't need because most of the game that was on the disc was fairly useless to you.
Well, see if
Just
that's
the whole game re-downloaded as it was for the Taken King.
the case, give me your copy so I can sit and laugh at the PvP.
Yeah, I'll give you the Xbox version, right? I'll keep the PlayStation 4. Because I got it in Xbox 360 before I got my PlayStation 4 because I wasn't buying it. And in fact, yeah, no, I've got it in I think I've got it in the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, I have on the PlayStation 4 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I
I've
think
got
what-
2 copies
what-
of the game, and I'm lucky if I've played 20 hours in each.
See, I think what you're now coming to, and this is taking us in a different subject, so I'll just be brief here, is that your game disc is essentially an authentication token that says, I have the license to play this game. So you
Yeah.
read any of
Essentially, yes.
any of the details that come with your games, it's like you're granted a license to play the game. And the disc is just an authentication token to do that.
Yeah, to make sure that you keep a hold of the disc while you're playing a digital version.
Yeah.
It's the same example as the PlayStation 4. Unless your account is set as primary, you can't play offline.
So, I think we are moving obviously very strongly to a more digitally orientated world, and I think that's definitely got pluses and minuses for gamers, DLC or otherwise, because on the plus side, if you've got a physical disc, then you've got the opportunity to trade in, and I've done plenty of that. I've got plenty of cash back, which I've then gone and invested in other games. I think I picked up Alien Isolation, having traded in 3 of my Xbox One launch games. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Great game. So, going digital, it's got convenience and it's very straightforward, and you don't have to keep the disc lying around, but you've got no trade-in value.
Yeah. Can I also say as well, there's no price difference in digital and physical at the minute. There never has been, and I don't ever think there ever will be. So there's no financial reason.
More
Well,
expensive.
actually, I think there is, Dan, because if you go to Amazon just now, you can pick up a standard edition of Halo 5 for 40 quid. It's available tonight. I checked that.
Well,
If you buy it from the Xbox store, it's $49.99. So
Yeah.
it's dearer to buy digital.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
Like,
more expensive to buy digital depending on the outlet. I mean, the Xbox and
Yeah.
PlayStation, they do charge more for digital than it is for physical, which is something that that's one of the things that gets me. I mean, I did kind of touch on it in one of the previous podcasts as well, that the fact that digital copies should be cheaper because there is no production costs other than somebody sitting and putting the original data disk that's been sent from the developer onto a server. That is literally as far as it needs to go.
some cases I've seen digital content.
Disc has to go to retailers, and also has to be put in packaging and all the advertising. I mean, the advertising still happens, but it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So why are we paying more for something that's cheaper to make?
I think that's the kind of question that really needs to get seriously placed with the senior people at the game companies. Why is your digital content more expensive than your physical content? Now you can create an argument which says that, okay, what Amazon do is they will buy 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 copies of a game and sell that on. And in doing it at that kind of bulk, what they do is the distributor who sells them the game will do it a lot cheaper than it would be than if you went and bought the game individually. So you get that bulk buying discount, and what they do is they apply that. You then come to Amazon because, hey, Amazon's cheap, and off you go. other online retailers are available. But that's it. Now, all those economies are being applied in a distribution and sales model, or you could just allow us to download the game and buy it directly. And clearly, there are significant advantages to both the publisher and the platform owner in terms of kind of what happens. So the people who lose out principally will be the people who produce the discs, the people who distribute the discs, and the game stores themselves. You kind of just have to wonder if that's what's stopping digital content from being cheaper. But that's another conversation.
Yes, it is, and that's for another show as well. Now, Andrew, do you think that, for instance, not so much the season pass model, but more the model for purchase that Danny and David have mentioned with episodic content, like The Walking Dead and that, do you think that that's value for money, considering the fact that they could make, say, The Walking Dead, I mean, right, I personally call it the sitting about, staying alive, because there's not many people who are dead in the show, and they don't tend to walk a lot anywhere. So, except we're on a farm. My issue with that is that they could make that go on forever and ever and ever and ever, and one season pass wouldn't apply for every year. It's like, I believe that the final model for Destiny is going to be a season pass a year. I'm beginning to think that because, for instance, in Destiny you've got your year 1 weapons and what they're now calling year 2 weapons. And year 2 bad guys drop year 2 weapons, but bad guys for year 1, like I think Crota is one of them, he drops a year one weapon. So there's it's not beneficial for people who like to go back and play previous things that they might have missed or whatever. And with things like The Walking Dead and Life is Strange, that while initially they are great on value short term, because it's episodic content, they could say, well, what we're going to do is we're going to do a season pass, but it's going to be like a season of a TV show. So there's 6 episodes for X amount, and next year we'll have another 6 episodes for the same price. And if you enjoy a franchise or you get into a franchise like that, then suddenly the next thing you know, there's loads and loads of all these years worth of episodic content, and before you know it, you're £200-300 out of pocket. Do you think that's something that may happen in the future?
I think that's happening now. I think The Walking Dead Series 2 came out. It was nothing included with the first one. I think, did you get 500 days with the first one for free? Or was it an extra as well?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm only playing Walking Dead because it's available on Games with Gold, but I'm just seriously impressed with the game.
Yeah, this kind of episode, Telltale are absolute masters of this. They create a story you want to follow, and they round off that story as promised in 5 episodes, 6 episodes. They're not expensive. They're engaging. And when I had Walking Dead, I bought the lot. I had it on Vita first. I've got it on Xbox One now. And that was fine. That was really good. When the second series came out, I saw that's The Walking Dead 2. It's a sequel. Call of Duty sticks out a game every year. Telltale can stick out a game every year. No problem with that. If you didn't like this one, you're not going to buy the second one.
Yeah, don't know how the developers for Life is Strange have said there is going to be some sort of season 2 for Life is Strange. Kind of where they take the story, that'll be interesting. But I don't really have any particular difficulty with the idea that just because you get a season of episodic content that they're going to come out next year if it's successful with the second season, as long as the quality's there, I don't mind. Nor would I mind saying if they came back and said, you know what, we're going to do Life is Strange Season 2, 15 quid for another 5 episodes, let's sign me up. I'm there. Happy to do that.
Yep, completely agree with you, David.
Fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. My own personal views on DLC and season passes, well, I think it depends more, not so much on the company, but the kind of game. We've seen these large open world sprawling games, Witcher 3, for instance, where some of the DLC's been paid for and some of it's been free. Grand Theft Auto, where all of the DLC's been free, but most of that's been aimed at, the Grand Theft Auto Online, which, if we're really, really honest about it, Rockstar are only just took a wild stab in the dark at the way their online structured for Grand Theft Auto. That doesn't mean to say that it isn't working. Then, of course, you've got the EA model where it's grab as much cash as you can and run. I've had some bad experiences with DLC. I can't really, honestly, for the life of me, remember a good experience for DLC that I've paid for, except maybe for DC Universe. But only then, that was so that I could advance my character, so he's able to fight in the player versus player. So when they put limits on what you can do and force you to buy the DLC, to me that's a bad model, because it means that the consumer's getting a bum's rush at the end.
I think if you get a complete experience without the DLC, that's valid. And if DLC enhances it, I'm relaxed with that. Then you've got the option to buy it or not buy it. If you have the kind of Call of Duty model where it's like, we're going to introduce these extra maps, and if you don't buy these extra maps, then you won't be able to play against all the other players, where it essentially compels you to it, then I think
it actually tells you at some points as well, if you don't have the same DLC as other people, it'll tell you before you even can go on.
It won't even let you into lobbies to play games.
Because you can't play against your friends because they have the DLC and you don't.
Yeah.
Well, you were saying there, Ricky, about the GTA DLC being all free. Most of the DLC is basically just additions to like cars and guns, etc. for the multiplayer. I think if they were to bring more story, then I think they'd charge for more actual like single player story.
Rockstar,
and I think, to be honest, I think they were to do that, then well, they've said they probably won't, but at the same time, I think if they ever decided in the future that they were going to bring in more single player story that you could work with, people would probably pay for that because the game was really good.
Yeah. Can I just say, they actually were going to bring in DLC story, but for some reason they now went back on their word. It was to do with Michael in some movie thing, but I will say that I'm really impressed with the way they've been doing GTA Online. I play that game nearly every night of the week.
And I'm still crap at driving.
Yes.
Heist, they brought out Heist, which was quite a big major update, I thought. I'm really impressed with it.
Heist is, it's almost like a completely new game mode, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cooperative game mode. So I mean, I think that's certainly true.
And they've got a new thing called free mode events as well now, where it's like seamless missions.
Yeah. So I mean, I think to a degree that the GTA have been experimenting. What I was going to say to you, did any of you guys ever play the expansion packs for GTA 4?
No. All I remember about that game is Roman and his bullet.
I played The Lost and the Damned and Ballad of Gay Tony, was that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I played them.
Aye. And they were both, I thought, really, really good additions to the original game. It made a point of kind of weaving a narrative through the same timeline as the original game, so you would see your main character doing different things from different places and you're viewing it from a different perspective, which I thought was interesting.
Well, that's what I could see GTA doing again with GTA 5. If they were to bring that kind of episodic content out again for GTA 5, then people would pay for it.
Yeah.
There's been rumours of them actually moving on to the next GTA, I've heard.
Well, it's not so much rumours. I mean, they're massively advertising at the moment for what looks like another open world game.
Yeah.
But some of the job descriptions that they're looking for is people who are familiar with car culture and people who are familiar with like fashion trends and stuff like that. So I don't think it's going to be a Red Dead game.
Yeah, it could be for LA Noire
LA Noire
It could be LA Noire. It could be
Or Bully.
GTA 6.
or Bully.
Some sort of street
I don't see
racing
Bully having anything to do
narrative.
with car culture though.
Maybe some sort of street racing type game. And there's been a number of games I've tried to do that. The Crew, I think, kind of tried and
Crew tried, and for all they did, Ubisoft, I don't think knew exactly where they were trying to take it, so it failed.
yeah.
It is an impressive game. The fact that it takes you about an hour and a half to get from one coast to the other, that is a lot of driving.
Watch Dogs is another disappointing game.
Watch Dogs had a good idea to begin with, but again, I don't think
Yeah.
See, I think Watch Dogs was just poorly executed.
Exactly.
It was better as a beta than it did as a game.
If you go back, and it's the classic thing of you get shown this amazing CG trailer at E3, and then you think, and then they show you, oh, this is gameplay, but it's on some PC that's kind of got quad graphics cards and it's ramped up right up, so you've got all the effects turned on and it looks sensational. And then you fire it onto a console and it's like, it's just not as, a big disappointment. And I think in the end, to be honest, Watch Dogs felt an awful like GTA. And it wasn't what I was expecting. The hacking thing, walk up to someone, press X, boom, you've hacked them. Oh, that's difficult.
Arkham Knight, I think, was the only real game lately that's lived up to its expectations in terms of graphical fidelity in console. If you disagree or agree.
Unless you get it on PC.
Well, PC was
to wait 6 months to play it.
After.
Yes, the less said about that, the better, I think.
Yeah, no, I do agree. PC was a bit of a disaster. But
Overall,
I think we should hopefully start to see higher graphical fidelity on both PlayStation and Xbox One with the introduction of DirectX 12, and I think that will enable developers to do more with the same hardware.
yeah,
Well, I mean, the hardware's there. It's the developer ability. I mean, it happens every generation. You start off with the low-end graphics, which were high-end graphics on the previous generation, and the more they learn what they can do and how far they can push the boundaries of the console and the hardware, the better it gets. I mean, you see it in like the first Halo to come out in Xbox 360. And
Halo
then the last
3, wasn't it?
And then the last Halo to come out in Xbox 360 were completely different in graphics. They were so much better for Reach than.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think you've got it spot on there, Will. It's as people become familiar with the hardware, they become better at getting more out of the same assets, and things like changes to tool sets like DirectX 12 and what will only help and make that. And, bottom line
they will definitely help them get where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
well, just to finish off part 2, DLC and season passes, are they worth it? Yes or no? Go.
No.
No.
yes, with caveats.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, depends on the game, but mostly no.
If it was a straight yes or no, I'm always going to say no.
Yes, I would have to say that short term they may be beneficial. Long term, I think you're just going to end up out of pocket.
Yeah.
Game that's gone full
You're buying
Warcraft
crap you don't need.
stuff all the time.
Yes, basically. That's my own personal take. And for you, the listener, thanks for listening. That was part 2, and you can take from that your conclusion is that we're probably getting ripped off every time we buy a piece of DLC or a season pass, long term. However, that's all for us this week, as we've ran a 75 minutes. That's going to be. I just got sparkled there by a comment. But that's all for us this week. I'd like to thank you all for joining us, guys. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
And I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening in, and for any new listeners, thanks for joining us. I've been your host, Ricky McMillan, and this is the Super Game Bros podcast. This is episode 10, Star Value. Super Game Bros is sponsored by G2A.com and No Scope Gaming Glasses. And from us, it's game over.